Right, the next slide introduces the findings, and I've broken the findings down into the sections that resulted out of the data analysis. The data analysis concluded in 8 categories, and I'm going to address those categories now in the findings. So the first slide or first category is a general slide to do with learning and PBL, and the first is with respect to scribing and sharing. It's no surprise that the students didn't enjoy scribing or sharing, and I think this quote describes it quite well. Seriously, nobody wants to scribe, or at least I have yet to meet someone who does. The quality of the facilitator is a massive issue with respect to students and with respect to their experience in PBL, and they either enjoy PBL or they don't, and largely the contributing factor there is the quality or experience and clinical contextualization or clinical teaching and learning that's undertaken with a particular facilitator. So there's a couple of quotes here as well that really describe it quite nicely. Another hugely important thing, make the quality of the facilitator at least somewhat reliable. The difference in the amount learned by a PBL group whose facilitator is essentially a layperson with no clinical background and a group whose facilitator can give clinical pearls and relevant information is profound. Another student said, if one group has a good facilitator, their entire engagement is different. In general, students preferred their learning objectives to be approved or pre-collated. The Department of Pathology has the policy to give those approved learning objectives to students as opposed to the Department of Human Biology that elect to have the aggregation session on the Friday. In general, students preferred, not surprisingly, to have those learning objectives collated for them. Thumbs up for task splitting and a thumbs up for task sharing, and again, this is no surprise. Students preferred task splitting because in that scenario they are responsible and accountable for their portion of the work that needs to be produced. In a task sharing environment, the outcome or the deliverable is dependent upon the contribution of all different students, and that really is true group learning. So a couple of quotes here as well. Doing all the learning objectives was a waste of time. They could be done online at home. With respect to note-taking in PBL, in general, students didn't enjoy that. They found that when they were doing the note-taking on the whiteboard, they were losing out making those notes themselves. Thumbs down for presenting. Again, absolutely no surprise there. One student said, bring in your interpretation rather than regurgitating the lecture slides. And I think that was quite apparent in the groups, the different levels of presentation and how those presentation skills influence the knowledge acquisition of the students listening to that presentation. So with respect to PBL, I think it's worthwhile mentioning at this point that students completely see that as adjunctive or additional to lectures. They regard lectures as their primary source of teaching and learning. And then one student said with respect to the first PBL session, it could be simply done away with.